So this is the
Try to.
recalibration of Bangladesh foreign policy, that get close to America because the funny thing in Bangladesh is that Indian domination was bad, but American domination is good. So it's not that Bangladeshis are anti-domination; it's who is doing the dominating. The uprising of 2024 unleashed all the extremist Islamic forces onto the streets, and these elements came into the center of politics. But one thing is clear is that the United States is building a very close relationship with Jamaat Islami. So they won't really need a proper base because they'll already have access to Bangladeshi ports and other bases where they can restock and resupply their forces in the Bay of Bengal. So yes, so the US has a goal of increasing its logistical presence in Bangladesh. I think ultimately this idea of the corridor from Kunming to Chittagong port, which on the face of it looks a decent one because it will improve trade, it will reduce the time that it takes for Bangladesh to import goods from China or export whatever. But America knows that it gives China access into the Bay of Bengal. So ultimately, I think Bangladesh will be hampered, if not totally stopped from doing this by the United States. Bangladesh's relationship with China on the military and security front will be essentially squeezed by the US. There's no doubt about that. But the thing is that since 2024, US presence has been strengthened, and it is now the dominating power in the country. So that kind of message of congratulations created some ripple of discussion. That what does it mean? Does it mean that Sergei Gore will work with Trivedi? How far Bangladesh can pursue an anti-India policy? I think Bangladesh is constrained by many factors in this regard. The only autonomy that Tariq Rahman is enjoying is that he thinks he can ignore India at the moment because he has the backing of the US. But once US and Indian interests converge, that autonomy will no longer be there.
Namaskar. This is Pratim Ranjan Bose, and you are watching Podcast with Pratim. I have with me Mr. Sabir Mustafa. He is joining from London. This is former head of BBC Bangla. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, this is, of course, when you are around, it has to be Bangladesh. Now, the question is a very puzzling thing. What is the foreign policy of Bangladesh? I mean, I'm just giving you snapshots of what happened over the last few weeks. Tariq Rahman government expressed their utter closeness to China. Then they went out in observing the American Independence Day in the parliament. There is a caucus of America in the parliament. Then parallelly, probably a day later or so, hardliners were allowed to march in protected areas to shout anti-USA, pro-Gaza, pro-Iran slogans. I'm not talking about the sudden surge in ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hamas flags. The Israeli ambassador in India said that there is Hamas, and there were Hamas flags before the Bangladeshi Prime Minister visited China. PM denied the presence of extremist groups, and that has been the position right from the Yunus government. And then suddenly, 1 or 2 days ago, we heard the arrest of a few persons for links to the global terrorist groups or extremist groups, whichever you say. So what is Bangladesh up to? Over to you, sir.
Well, what's happening is that Bangladesh is trying to reposition itself in its foreign policy. The current thinking in Bangladesh is that during Sheikh Hasina's 15 years, Bangladesh had become too close to India. Although Sheikh Hasina was trying to build a relationship with China as well, but that relationship was always kind of under Indian scrutiny, and she had to take Indian objections or views into account. Sheikh Hasina was kind of balancing the influence of the US with her closeness with India. Now the thing is changing, going the other way. Bangladesh has become very close to the US, and they think that the Indian influence can be balanced or nullified by its relationship with the US, which will leave it free to pursue a close relationship with China. Now, this relationship with China is not new. Tarique Rahman, the current prime minister, his father, General Zia Rahman, the late General Zia Rahman, he initiated Bangladesh's relationship with China way back in 1977. That was long before China became the economic power it is today. So Zia Rahman's philosophy was that China's was needed to balance India. The same thing is happening with Tariq Rahman. Now, the thing is that China is now an economic superpower. So China has much more to give Bangladesh than just political support. And China is not really into interfering in the internal politics of any country. So China is looking for a strategic position in Bangladesh in order to get access to the Bay of Bengal. That's China's big play here. And that might bring Bangladesh into some sort of discomfort, if not conflict, with the US, because the US obviously, and India, of course, they don't want China to have that kind of access to the Bay of Bengal. But China has already floated the idea of a road link, a rail link from Kunming in Yunnan province to the Chittagong port through Myanmar. They're calling it an economic corridor. But in reality, it will be China's access, a second access to the Bay of Bengal, because China is already building a port in Myanmar itself. So this is the recalibration of Bangladesh foreign policy, that get close to America, because the funny thing in Bangladesh is that Indian domination was bad, but American domination is good. So it's not that Bangladeshis are anti-domination; it's who is doing the dominating. That's the problem. So the current dispensation, the people who are currently in power, making the noises, for them being close to America is good, because it means we can be distant from India. So that's how things are going at the moment. But what you're referring to with the flags and the march of the extremists, that's more domestic. Obviously, it doesn't have much impact on foreign policy. And this domestic thing has been going on since Yunus days. The uprising of 2024 unleashed all the extremist Islamic forces onto the streets, and these elements came into the center of politics. Previously, they were on the margins, on the fringes, but now they're in the center. So the Gaza issue, the Palestine issue, which used to be the domain of left-wing parties, liberals, progressives, is now firmly in the Islamist extremist camp. And that's why you see the Islamists using the Palestinian flag or the Gaza flag or Hamas flag, whatever, to kind of legitimize their presence in the street.
Right. I took reference of this terrorist thing because the Khaleda Zia government in 2001 and 6, that came under the scanner, and that actually it came in collision course with the US on this terrorist issue. So,
Yeah.
so here is I understand that at this moment they are not exactly in that same mode, but that's about time. It will change.
One thing is clear is that the United States is building a very close relationship with Jamaat Islami. You see that reception that they organized on the South Plaza of the National Parliament building. Jamaat Islami's leader, Dr. Shafiqur Rahman, was one of the key speakers at that reception hosted by the American ambassador. That may be because he's the leader of the opposition officially, so that cannot be ignored. But even before that, the US, diplomatically, they have been building bridges with Jamaat, because they think, and I think this is their thinking, that if parties like Jamaat is in the mainstream of politics, then the possibility of extremist groups rising will be less. I don't know if it's a fanciful thought or a realistic policy, but that seems to be their policy, to bring Jamaat into the mainstream to prevent the rise of extremism. That's the strategy. I don't know if it will work.
Well, there is another version to it. The Arab Spring in Egypt was definitely, they brought the Islamic Brotherhood, and then the Brotherhood was, so the Jamaat is a part of the Brotherhood, but Jamaat has been exposed over the last 2 years pretty well also. And so we have to see where it goes. I mean, they are building up relations, they build relations and they snap relations.
Yeah.
Both. And I don't think that US has a very long-term goal in that in Bangladesh, accepting that it wants control over the Bay of Bengal or
Yeah.
build a hub over there. Building military bases is the only aim of the US. That is what I understand.
If it's not building military bases, it will be as a kind of bulwark against Chinese influence in the region. Already, Bangladesh is signing, or it's been reported that signing agreements with US, which will allow the US military to use Bangladesh for resupply, restocking their, fuel and all that. So, which means that they can use Bangladeshi bases and ports for their military once these agreements are signed and ratified and everything. So they won't really need a proper base because they'll already have access to Bangladeshi ports and other bases where they can restock and resupply their forces in the Bay of Bengal. So yes, so the US has a goal of increasing its logistical presence in Bangladesh to supply its Indian Ocean fleet.
Right. From Ziaur Rahman to Tariq Rahman, I don't see much difference in one thing. The foreign policy is built on anti-India theme. That is it. Ziaur Rahman promoted or wanted SAARC just to keep India on check. The China, you said, just to keep India on check. So it is basically, I don't see the main plank of the, to me, the main plank of foreign policy is anti-India foreign policy. That's it. That said, so that's pretty interesting because India extended its welcome to Tariq Rahman. He ignored the invite from Mr. Modi. He agreed to invite Chinese into projects which are definitely not in Indian interests. At the same time, he agreed to China's proposal to build the China-Bangladesh corridor. Now, the Myanmarese army, you know very well that the first trip that the new government made is to India and then to China. Similarly, India is also in good touch with the Arakan army. So, and there is no way that you can do anything in Myanmar without India, involving India. So,
yeah, and Bangladesh knows that. Bangladesh knows that, and that is why this idea floated by China is still an idea. Bangladesh has not accepted it, nor entered into any kind of negotiation over it. So Bangladesh knows that this corridor through Rakhine State and Sham State, both of which are absolutely embattled at the moment, and that the security of those corridors cannot be guaranteed under the present circumstances. So yeah, sorry to interrupt, but just to clarify that no negotiation has started on this corridor issue. It's still just an idea floated by China.
Fair, but the idea runs contrary to the American interest.
Yeah.
So how are they, I mean, I'm at a loss. How are they pleasing America when they are actually needling America?
I think ultimately this idea of the corridor from Kunming to Chittagong port, which on the face of it looks a decent one because it will improve trade, it will reduce the time that it takes for Bangladesh to import goods from China or export whatever. But America knows that it gives China access into the Bay of Bengal. So ultimately, I think Bangladesh will be hampered, if not totally stopped from doing this by the United States, because Bangladesh is now very, very close to the United States, and it will not be in a position to, ignore American objections on this. So I think it's an idea that China has floated, but its chances of success under the present circumstances, I would say, is very, very slim.
You said about the Bangladesh USA agreements. Now, if America gains access to the gains military access to the infrastructure, which means, if I am not wrong, there is I forget that particular agreement, but I am sure they will get Mr. Rahman sign on the dotted lines. But point is that you have to pass information on anything else that you do with any
Yeah.
other, particularly with China, right? China, at the same time, it will go with US and where it will pass information on China. So you cannot be with China, isn't it?
Yeah. Bangladesh's relationship with China on the military and security front will be essentially squeezed by the US. There is no doubt about that. There is talk of Bangladesh buying more advanced Chinese weaponry like the J-10C fighter aircraft. But then again, I don't know how far this will go, because the US is not going to be too happy. Although Pakistan is heavily dependent on Chinese military, and US has very good intelligence sharing and other relationship with Pakistan, but Bangladesh is not Pakistan. Bangladesh is not strategically that important compared to Pakistan, nor does Bangladesh serve US security interests to the extent that Pakistan does because of its geographical position. So whether the US will be so liberal with Bangladesh and allowing more advanced Chinese weaponry to be used by the Bangladesh military is, again, another point that will come up for discussion, I think, with the US, as if Bangladesh pursues this line further. At the moment, during Tariq Rahman's visit, there was no discussion, not in public anyway, or nor acknowledged publicly, on defense cooperation or any procurement of equipment. Nothing was signed, nothing was discussed according to official readouts. So even then, these two sides know that these are things that they cannot just pursue without any thought of any objection from other side, other parties. So I think this is going to be a very tricky side of the relationship between Bangladesh and China. And I don't see the security and defense relationship developing very greatly, especially after the deals that Bangladesh has already signed and are about to sign with the US.
Okay. So, yeah, you're right that Pakistan built a military complex, which Bangladesh cannot, because the times have changed also. And its geography doesn't permit it anyway. Back to the topic, it's very interesting. If you slight China, you already slighted India. Okay. And none of them, I mean, we have underplayed the India issue, but India is very much on the rise, and India, US there are both sides of it in the relation. So that put together, both India, China, Russia, none wants, and all three have presence in Bangladesh. No one will be very happy to see strong rise of American interests.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree to that?
But yeah, absolutely. But the thing is that since 2024, US presence has been strengthened, and it is now the dominating power in the country. I mean, if you look at the activities of the various embassies in Dhaka, which is an indication of which government has more kind of influence over Bangladesh matters, you'll see the US embassy and the new US ambassador, Brett Christensen, highly active in the political arena. Not just a bilateral relationship, but internal political arena. They're also very, very active in their building their relationship.
In fact,
with
the
various...
US ambassador in India, that was very funny and significant. US ambassador in India welcomed the appointment of the new Indian High Commissioner in Dhaka.
Yeah. Now, this was as you said, it's interesting. It is very interesting because it's very rare for an ambassador accredited to one country to congratulate the appointment of that country's ambassador to a third country, unless he knows something about the appointment of that high commissioner and his mission in Bangladesh, to which he is privy and where he might even play a role. So, that kind of message of congratulations created some ripple of discussion. That what does it mean? Does it mean that Sergei Gore will work with Trivedi uh, on Bangladesh on something? So those are things that are under speculation. But
to put it simply, if India, that is also a conjecture. If India and US remain closer, that is of course against. That will destroy all these plans that you said to anti-India foreign policy. So that will be of little relevance then.
Yeah, the thing is that how far Bangladesh can pursue an anti-India policy. I think Bangladesh is constrained by many factors in this regard. So it is much more for domestic purpose. If you look at the commentaries in Dhaka after Tarique Rahman's visit to China and the editorials, they are all very upbeat about how national interest is being served, how we should not put all our eggs in one basket, we should spread them, US, India, China, etc., etc. So they're all thinking that it's an, the Bangladesh has some sort of strategic autonomy. They can build relationship with whoever they want. But it's not like that, because at some point, one of them will say, okay, you have to serve my interest. And your relationship with X is not serving my interest. So what will Bangladesh do then? You can juggle three balls for only so long, but you have to be a very, very...
Do you think Bangladesh's strategic autonomy, or the independence in foreign policy increased from Hasina to Yunus and Tariq Rahman days?
I think the only thing that has happened is that Bangladesh has been able to distance itself from India. Right. That's the only thing. It's not that Bangladesh has gained strategic autonomy where it can pursue a foreign policy regardless of other powers' wishes. It's only because Bangladesh has moved from closeness to India to closeness to the US and continuing their relationship with China. The thing is, the relationship with China is not new. It's not a surprising or shocking development.
Right.
It's been going on.
Yeah,
and even under Hasina, it went on. Hasina visited Beijing. Xi Jinping came to Dhaka once.
One of the American objections to her government was that allowing China to build that submarine base.
Yeah. And also Hasina was pursuing, asking or working with China to build a deep sea port in the Chittagong area, which she had to abandon in the end and gave it to the Japanese. So yes, she has tried, but she has not been successful in getting close to China. And I think Tariq Rahman will know the limitations. The limitations that Hasina faced will be faced by Tariq Rahman as well.